Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to talk about fugues, and it's such a big subject, we're actually going to split it up into 2 weeks. So this is the first half of our lecture on fugues. The second half will happen next week. So your assignment this week will be 3.1 and one part of 3.2, which we'll discuss later in a couple minutes. So the fugue, chapter 3, let's get started. Again, there's a lot to write, so I'm going to use the book, and you can watch along as I sort of highlight and talk and discuss. So, the fugue. A fugue is a contrapuntal composition in 2 or more voices built on a subject. All right? A subject is just a short melody that is stated in all voices, so all voices get this little subject, right? And it's repeated throughout the composition. That's the most important part of a fugue, all right? So it's contrapuntal, meaning it's going to go in multiple directions, or polyphonic, in 2 or more voices. So there's going to be 2 or more voices, right? So it could be 3, 4, 8. And it's built on a subject, which is just a short melody, and it's stated in all of the voices. So all of the voices get it at some point, and it gets repeated throughout the composition over and over. All right? So the first section is called the exposition. All right? This is the most fully structured part of the fugue, and it introduces all the main melodic materials. All right? We'll get to that in a second. And supporting contrapuntal elements, don't worry about that. Basically, it's introducing all of the main melodies that you're going to hear. All right? The exposition, the individual voices make their entrances one at a time to reveal these thematic elements. So you're going to hear it happen one at a time. So the soprano will enter with a theme, and then the alto will enter with a theme, and then bass will enter, and then tenor will get it. And everybody will get the full theme, and then it will, get passed on to the next person, sort of like a round. So the basis of the entire fugue is the subject, all right? So the whole entire piece is built around one subject. And remember, the subject is the melody, so it's this one melody. Think about it as just being built around one melody, all right? Subjects are short melodies that can range anywhere from 2 notes to 8 measures in length, all right? So anywhere from 2 notes to 8 measures. 8 measures gets really complicated. Usually it's about 1 or 2 measures, all right? So a short little theme or a motive, all right? And you hear only the subject at the very beginning, all right? So it's just going to be the one subject, and then it builds from there. It gets passed along, all right? So when that subject is completed, it is imitated in another voice. So basically, this melody gets passed along to the next voice. All right? It's usually at the perfect fifth, aka the dominant, or the perfect fourth below. The imitation is known as the answer. All right? So we have the melody, subject, and it gets passed along to the next voice, which becomes the answer. And it's still the same melody, all right? All right, so and there are 2 ways that you can have an answer, all right? So if the answer is a literal exact imitation, so if it's exactly the same, right? As far as, so it's exactly the same in intervallically, all right? So the intervals are the same. So if you give somebody a major third up, minor second down, perfect fourth up, right? Like that's your melody. So it could be this. That's your melody. Now, if you get that exact same answer, major third up, minor second down, perfect fourth up, and it's either a perfect fourth or a perfect fifth above it, right? So you've got, here's the original subject, right? Now if you get that exact same thing, but just a fifth above, so that it turns into this, sorry, major third. So it's going to go. Right? If that becomes your exact answer, right, then it's called the real answer. So this would be a real answer. Okay? Now, if the answer is slightly modified, then it becomes a tonal answer. So say maybe we want to stay in the same key, right? We don't want to add any sharps and flats to it. So maybe your melody answer in the other voice, so maybe this is the soprano and this is the tenor, your melody voice is going to be maybe, I don't know, a minor third up, say, and a major second down, and then a perfect fourth up. All right, so it's really similar, but maybe not exactly the same. This is what's known as a tonal answer. All right? So that's all it is. It's pretty clear. Tonal answers occur for a variety of reasons. Two basic reasons are to create a strong tonic-dominant relationship. Basically, if it makes it hard for this guy to go from 5 back to 1, right, then you're going to end up with a tonal answer to make sure that that happens. If the fugue subject is difficult to work with in that way. That's basically what it boils down to. So yeah, that's what they mean by strong tonic-dominant relationship. Usually this is going to start on 1 and end on 5, as far as chords go, not modulations. So start on 1, end on 5, and then the answer melody will be start on 5, right? So it'll go a fifth up or a perfect fourth down, and then it will end on 1, all right? If this guy is ending sort of ambiguously and it makes it difficult for him to get back to a true 1, right, then you'll get your tonal answer so you can get a true 5-1. That's what they're looking for. It's all about the tonic-dominant relationship. All right, so here we're actually going to see them in the flesh. All right, so you can see these intervals. Here is our subject, right? We've got D, A, B, A, G, F, G, A, D, G, F, E, D, minus all the sharps in the key signature. All right, so you get a perfect fifth up, minor second up, and then you have stepwise down, right? And then major second up, jump down a fifth, right? So everything's going to be the same. And then in our answer, you're going to hear it's going to be a little bit different. All right, so here's the subject. So it's going to go, sorry, A sharp. Try it again. Ready? Here's the subject. All right? And then here's the answer. So it's going to move up a fifth. So it's going to go from D sharp to A sharp. All right? And instead of, here's where it changes. Instead of going from D sharp to A sharp up a perfect fifth, it's going to go from A sharp to D sharp. So it's going to reverse. up a perfect fourth. And then it's going to go up a third to F sharp. So you're, instead of getting, sorry, right, we get that. The rest stays the same though, so let's listen to it. So here's the answer. All right, so do you see how it's got a lot of the same stuff in it, right? I mean, it still has the same contour, right? And even this back end is going to be exactly the same. But here's where the change happens so that it can fit into the key, right? So we go up a perfect fourth instead of going up a perfect fifth. Normally, if you wanted it to be a real answer, so this one we would call a tonal answer, right? If it were real, it would go up to E sharp, right? It would be a perfect fifth. So E sharp, and then it would go to the F sharp. But in this case, it changes, okay? And then the rest stays all the same. But since we have this one little change right here, we would still call it a tonal answer rather than a real answer, all right? So a subject that modulates, keep that in mind. So if this modulates, it usually takes a tonal answer to prevent the fugue from spiraling out of the closely related key range, all right? So you're going to have some sort, you're going to have to basically mess with it in order to keep it from going to the, like, C sharp minor if you start in A major, all right? So yeah, you don't want to spiral out of control, definitely. So yeah, if a real answer were used, it would modulate to a key that's outside of the orbit of, remember, our closely related keys from back in the day, from the first book, from modulation. So that means if we're in the key of, say, for example, E flat major, our closely related keys are, we take one flat away, so that's B flat major. We can add a flat, right? So that's going to be A flat major. And then we can have the relative minors as well, right? So relative minor of E flat major is, yep, you got it, C minor. And then a perfect fifth up from C minor to its nearest related key, 4 flats, is going to also be the relative minor of A flat, just happens to work that way. So that's going to be F minor. And then if we take away a flat, we only have 2 flats instead of 3 flats, right? We get G minor, which also just happens to be the relative major, or the relative minor of B flat major. So these guys, all related, okay? Brother, sister, grandma, grandpa, whatever. So you don't want to suddenly have it spin into something like C sharp major, because that's going to be outside of their family, okay? So instead, lots of times, to keep this from happening, Bach, and this is specific to Bach, Bach is the king of the fugue. He's the one who does it best, and he's amazing. So most of the fugues we're going to refer to and talk about are fugues by Bach. This is one of the things that makes Bach, Bach. Why people talk about how great and amazing and what a genius Bach was, largely based on his fugues. So Bach modifies the end of the answer to return to the tonic key lots of times, all right? We'll see it right here. So in this case, the subject begins in C minor and is going to end in G minor. So here's the subject.